So we're back, and it's time to put all the padding and the foam back in its proper place. It's going to be a lot easier than you think, and follow each step that we do, and it's going to be done right. Okay, so the next step to complete the sofa and get it right is that we got to make sure that the springs work as one unit, that they work in unison. And what they did at the factory, there's a wire underneath here, and it's covered in paper to stop down the squeaking when someone sits down. It's important that when someone does sit down, that the platform works as one unit, and that makes it more comfortable. Whereas if we didn't tie these together with either wire or the methods that Grant and I will show you in a minute, then this unit would only be by itself, and that's not going to work. So it's important that we make it all unison. Okay, so what the upholsterer used was synthetic webbing, not jute webbing. Jute webbing is very stiff. Synthetic is a lot more flexible. It's easier to work with. And what he did, he just tied the synthetic webbing at the appropriate places on the zigzag springs to make it all unison. Very important, as I said before. Make sure that this platform zigzag spring is all tied together and in unison. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. And let's say you don't have any synthetic webbing. There's another way, or actually 3 other ways that you can do this. We try to set it up where it's easier for homeowners to be able to complete a job like this. So Grant's going to explain to you 2 ways that you can tie these zigzag springs in as one unit. So Grant, what are some of the options?
Well, we have 2 options right here. With this option, this is a wire. You can use a wire to tie the springs together. You want it to be at the 2 closest points so that if you do it right here and here, over time it's going to slip and it's going to lose its tension. So that's useless. So you want to do it from this point, you bend it over, twist it on itself until it gets tighter, then go to the next point, the closest point to it, bend it over, twist it over. So that's one way. Make sure your wire is definitely a heavy grade. So you don't want it to be too flimsy.
Right, okay, the gauge is very important. And also make sure that it's flexible and easy to work with. And make sure when you twist it around the wire that it basically is very tight, because wire can be a little bit difficult to work with, but you'd squeeze that together like so with needle nose pliers and keep twisting until you get a nice tight fit there. So it's important that your wire is the appropriate wire to use, not too thick, not too thin, and easy to work with.
All right. Then the second option is you can use a spring. This is a closed loop spring. You don't want to use this one. We just brought this out to show what a regular hook spring looks like. So you attach it right here, probably be a little bit bigger of a spring. Attach it right here and stretch it over. That's very good. Make sure it's not too taut, because if you squeeze this together, it's going to distort it. It's just going to mess it all up.
Like that. Right, right.
So those are the 2 ways that you can use it. Another way we're going to use it is
with what's called ruby Italian twine for springs. So ruby Italian twine. So you can look at that online. And you're going to need the proper lengths. Excuse me one second. Let me step over here. You're going to need the proper lengths between the springs here. I want to do 4 times. So you can just simply wrap it over 4 times like this. And I always want to give myself a little extra. So maybe we're really near 5 times. Cut this like this. Pull this off. Get a tape measure. I counted earlier, I got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. So I'm going to lay this out like this. My tape measure, that is. We got about 25. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want 8 25 length piece of ruby Italian twine. So cut that out, then I'll show you how we're going to tie these springs together. So to make the connections with the spring twine, we're going to do a slip knot on the first one. So I want you to make a slip knot. Make a little loop like this here. Hold it up to the other side of the twine like this, and then twist it around. I didn't leave myself too much excess. I should have given a little bit more. And then pull it like that. Okay? So then you can just simply pull that down like that and pull this nice and tight like that. Now the next step I want you to do is don't tie a knot to this one. Pull it around, pull the string so the tension is very tight between the two. Go around again. Try to always keep the same tension. And then go around this one on that side. And then I'm going to go back over top of this one like this. Back over here. One more time. That's why I said do about 4, 5 lengths of what you originally measured. And then if you want, you can even do it again, or what I like to do is go around twice on this end and then back over, and then twice around here, and then you can tie a knot here, or if you have enough, tie a knot over here. So I came back around and turned it on itself like this, and hopefully I can get one more knot out of this. Sometimes pliers help out a lot too, squeezing it pretty tight and then pulling that knot like this toward me, turning the pliers like this, and that's pretty tight. See, it's all working as one unit. Very important. Make sure that it's all one unison platform working as one large spring. And that's kind of the purpose. And I'm going to do this on 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 more, but definitely 4 more, and we should be finished with this part, tying in the springs. Now as you go through here and you're tying on your strings, you want to keep the tensions the same. If you pull too tight, you're going to pull the springs together, and that leaves too much of a pocket or a gap from the last to the next spring. So you don't want to pull so tight where you're squeezing these together, and that can be a problem. Now another problem that we run into doing this is these little clamps here are not permanent well, they are permanent, but they're not welded where they'll still have movement left and right. So what we like to do is bend them downward, obviously not upward. That is the excess wire here. So we're going to take a needle nose plier, or whatever you have, and get as close as you can, bend it down like this, so that will stop it from, or minimize the sliding left and right. We want to make it where, let me pull this paper off so you can see it better. We want to make it where this clamp can't continue to go forward because this wire would have been straight. So I'm going to do a little bit better job in a moment here with this wire like that. So now we just bent that down. I'm going to do that to each one of these. I've already done it to this one. Just completed that one. I'm going to bend this one down here. And I'm going to do the same for this the best I can on this side. Now for added reassurance that the springs won't slide left and right, you, if yours is moving quite a bit, because ours is, you might need to take a piece of twine, tie it to the end spring that you're trying to stabilize. Maybe just loop it, tie it around here, and then come back to the rail over here and staple like they did with the factory. You see that fabric there? That's what they did to tie the end serpentine spring to the side rail, and we did the same thing. So basically I'm just trying to add a little extra stability to this spring. And you might need to do the same thing on the other end from underneath, is tie one here, maybe here, or no, better yet here, and then there, and run twine all the way to the bottom rail back there. You don't have to take the outside arm or anything apart. Just go down at the bottom. You'll be perfectly fine. We're just trying to make it so these stay proper tension and they're useful when the platform is in use. Okay, so we finished that last one there, and the unit seems to be one, doesn't it, Grant?
Yeah.
Worked out really well. Grant reinforced it by taking extra twine and putting it right next to the clamps here and running it all the way to the side rail and stapling it down. That helped out a lot. Another important thing is make sure at the end of the wires that you do take any one of these types of pliers and bend it over so the clamp can't go left or right. Very important. The tensions seem to be the same from the front to the back. It seems to be working in unison. Looks really good. It's got many years to go left in the sofa here. So what we're going to do is next is lay down all the padding, all the foam, all the foundation fabric, just as if we're going to keep that fabric. And as you know, this is going to be reupholstered, but yours is probably not going to be. So we're going to show you how to put it all back and have years and years of use with it. So that's our next step. So let's put everything together, and Grant's going to tell us what we're going to do next. Grant?
So next we're going to pull down the foundation fabric. We're going to pull it like this, do a few staples right here, and then fold it over.
And tuck this part through
here, right underneath the arm.
Underneath the arm there.
Alright, let's get started.
You do that, and I'll do this here.
Alright.
Pull it tight, too. Okay. Fold it over, too, when you staple on one side. Fold it back over and staple on top. Just going to do it on that end.
Okay. Next. Pull this pretty tight. Don't pull too hard because there are staple holes that are left and you're going to rip it. So be careful.
Pull that way.
Alright. Sorry.
Fold that over.
Okay.
Now the next step, we're going to lay down the padding over top. This breaks the feel of the springs. And push that through the arm. We're just simply putting it back in the reverse order. We took it apart. Coming through with that.
Okay. Alright. Staple it down.
It's important too when you lay this down to make sure you don't have any staples or any like little pieces of wood or something like that on here, because it'll poke through the fabric. Now the next step, you can simply see that it's the decking material. The decking material is next. And we're going to pull this down. That's where it was cut with that plate, but that's fine. We're going to push this through here, underneath the arm. Coming through it. You got it?
Yep.
Got all that there.
Okay. Let's go through right here. Alright.
You have to get some parts established before you start pulling too hard. Best place to start really would be the front here. Let's hold that back.
Okay.
You can even tell where the old or where the fabric once set. See the crease? That obviously is going to be the wood edge right there. So we're going to keep that there. We're going to pull that tight. Yeah.
Okay.
Very simple. Okay, you got that?
Mm-hmm.
No, put an anchor there too. That'll help. Watch fingers. Okay. Okay, now let's go in the back. Actually, your hose reaches. We're going to pull in the back there. I'll do the side. Kind of pull off in this direction like that.
So off this direction?
Yeah. Okay. Make it nice and tight, just like that.
Alright.
You got that?
Yep. Okay. So if there's any creases in there right now, this will pull it out. So I'm pulling it this way.
So you can see you still get your hand through there, so when we do the arm, the inside arm fabric will go underneath here and staple on top. That's the order it goes in. Now the next step in the front is what's called the edge roll. And if you use staples, it's going to cut right through, especially this styrofoam edge roll. So that's kind of standard with furniture today. We're going to put a few staples just to anchor it. Just to keep it still. That's all I'm doing this for. But we're going to use tacks that are here. See the heads there will, let me pull that one through. The heads there will hold it in place a little bit better too. Alright, we just finalized the edge roll. It's important that it hangs over just a little bit over the front of the rail. You can tell that your hand's hitting it there, so it's important that it's not back too far. Also try to put it back the way they had at the 90-degree. That's what we need to do here. So what's next, Grant?
Well, now we have to put down the foam. As you can see, there's glue residue left over, so we will glue it again and put this down, take down the front, staple it on.
Okay, it is important that you keep it glued. Do exactly what the factory did because you don't want it shifting. So you can get a can of glue, fabric glue, foam glue, that'll work. But we got something a little different that we use here in the shop. Watch yourself, buddy. Watch yourself. So that looks pretty much the way they did it at the factory. It looks good. So you can see it's hanging over just a little bit. Then we have our Decor or batting that goes over top. And we're going to have to move the sofa off to the edge because when we pull this down, we're going to have to staple underneath. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to pick this up and just move it off to the edge. Okay, so we're pulling over the batting Decor here, and we're looking for staples. I found one here. Little pieces of wood is normal. Get that out because you don't want that to be underneath your fabric. Just inspect it as much as you can. Alright. Now they staple this down too. So where's the gun? Can you lower the pressure?
Yep.
Thanks. Now for this one I'm just going to establish things. I'm going to establish just what I call an anchor staple. So I'm just doing it to the side. I'm not going straight on, I'm going at an angle. That just makes it easier to pull it out because I don't want it to be permanent.
Alright.
So Grant, what we're going to do is we're going to start from here, pulling, smoothing with, see that, look at that, smoothing as we go down, working our way to the corner there. So you can see where the old crease was. It's very simple. You're just putting it back to where it was from the original factory. So there's the crease, just like that. Now remember, don't pull too much if you can help it like this, because when you get down at the end, you're going to have a lot of excess there. So you do kind of want to go that direction, but it's not a forced situation of everything's going that direction. It's very important too if it's a stripe. Stop, see if you're distorting it. Okay, so let's finish this up.
All right.
All right, so now that we finished this up in the front here, we're just trying to establish the side. I'm going, this seam here needs to be right on the edge as much as we can get it over there. And you can see it pull over when I pull down on this fabric here. So I'm going to staple here. I got to get this out. Like, this has to come down a little bit further. That's just to keep it there temporarily. I'm trying not to distort it too much. Now, this also gets stapled on the front of this arm here. So I'll pull that back. It's been cut by the last upholsterer, so I really need some pull strip here. I don't have much to go by, but I think I might be able to get it. That's something there. Meaning that the pull strip here was cut away, so I have barely any to attach it to. But it looks pretty good. You're getting the idea of how this thing goes back together. I'm going to put this here. Okay, so now we're going to work on the arm. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. It started to come undone just a little bit here when we were testing it out. Grant was slipping it on, and it pulled away a little bit more here. So I'm going to bring the seam down just a little bit here and a little bit in that back, and then we'll get back to you and put this arm on and show you how this pull over arm will go on. Okay, some people call it a slip arm, sock arm, simply because this style you slip it right over top. Being square, obviously you want to make sure it's staying straight. Now the first thing we want to do is get this side, come over here, get this to go underneath the bottom of the arm rail. The brown fabric's the pull strip. Okay, and that's going. Now this little piece here, this is a pull strip basically. When the upholsterer beforehand cut this, you're going to go right through here, and they usually come out at the bottom underneath of the foundation fabric past the springs. See, just like that. So you get to see that pull just like that. And that's how that works. We're going to come around here, hold this up as much as you can, and pull through the brown fabric. And we're going to staple. You can tell where the old staples were right there. And that's what we're going to do. Don't pull too tight with this slip arm, because when you pull too tight, you're going to see it get distorted. So you need to keep it nice, clean, straight lines. And that's important. So your style is probably different. You probably don't have this issue. So just keep working with it. Don't make too many things established before you see if it looks good to you. Now we got the side established. The next step we're going to do is establish the back here. I'm looking straight down the line here, make sure that looks good. Yeah, maybe we'll use your gun, I guess.
Here.
Okay. That's good. Now, see, watch this. When we pull this, that'll come down some. You know, you really can't beat. You can't beat using your hand. Smooth your hand over like this to whatever you want it to do. It's actually a great tool, your hand. So that looks really good. But before we go and do that, now this is established. The inside arm is established. The next step is we've got to make sure the front looks good. And how they did the front, you can check the other side of your furniture to see how the last upholsterer finished the upholstery. And they just tucked this up underneath. That's pretty standard. This piece here, pull your batting Decor down. And you just got to keep working with it until it looks good. But this is pretty standard here. Going to fold that up like so. We're going to pull this bottom piece that I pulled down through the springs. See, it looks pretty good, right? And we'll keep working with it until we like what we have. And he's doing a good job there by tucking that in. That's going to get established right here with some ply grip. We're going to show you how to do that. But the next step we want to start doing is stapling the Decor right here. Then we're going to start establishing the middle. You work from the middle to the ends. Middle to the ends. And then you're going to see us do it, and then we're going to put on the ply grip.
Like that.
Okay, so the next step is closing this outside arm. And there's 3 different ways you can do this. One, you can hand sew it if you want. You'd simply fold this over and do your hand sewing here. Or you can use ply grip, which I like a lot. You can cut it down to size with some very cheap scissors. This is what I use around the shop. It cuts right through it just fine, like that. If you use ply grip, a little idea is to angle the sharpest edge. See that edge right there? It's very sharp. You would just angle it like this, and that keeps your fabric from poking through. So that gives it a smoother edge. Because if it's a sharp edge, then when you close it, it's going to push right through your fabric there. And you can tell the factory rounded it over. So that's how you can keep your fabric from poking through if you're using ply grip. Now the other one is tack strip, which a lot of people use this, a lot of upholsterers. I don't use it as much. I don't like it as much, but hey, if it works for you, that's great. You would push through the fabric and turn it on itself. You have to have enough excess over on this side. So we need a little bit more than what we have now. Pull it over and then tack it down. You're going to want to line your final turnover with your seam, and the same thing for the ply grip. Now the ply grip, the prongs will face toward your seam. So I want my seam to be about right there. So I'm going to line it up to, when I close this, to be a continuous seam. Now to show you how to fasten the ply grip, you just cut it to size here. We're going to use ply grip, so right here would be good. Try to get that sharp edge off of here. We're going to staple this over. Give me the gun, please. Now obviously you could use tacks to go right in the hole. That's probably what they intended originally with this design. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use staples. You just want to position it. Once you get used to your gun, it's not too bad. Sometimes you'll miss, but you want to position it where half the staple's in the hole and half of it's in the wood. Just like that. Keep it straight. Don't have it crooked like that. That looks pretty good. Now I want to bend this over. Wait, I didn't do the top one. Hold on. You're going to want to just bend these over. What you can do too is get a pair of needle nose. and you can grab a hold of it so you don't hit the prongs, and you can force it back a little bit. Like that. That works pretty good. You don't want to mat down the prongs though. Make sure the prongs are still sticking out. So I'm just using the pliers to straighten it out. It's best too if we already stapled this down, but we can cut this free. Have the Decor resting over top of it. Let me see if I can't cut this free here. Let me get this out of the way. That. Pull that out, pull that over. Now you need what's called a regulator. You can, yeah, thanks for the gun, John, I could use that. Let's put some staples for the Decor to stay in place. Like that. Let's cut this off. Smooth that down. Regulator. Push this in like that. Fold that over. Push that inside. Sometimes you close it down too far. You have to pull it back. And you can use a rubber mallet, or you can use the decorative nail, nylon side. Just like that. Pull this down, staple that. Go ahead and staple that. There you go. That looks pretty good. So you get the idea. You get the idea of how ply grip can close. Let me staple this here. How ply grip can close up and in. So what I wanted to show you here is when you pull the pull strip that we pushed through the platform area down past the springs, how much nicer the arm looks. So what you can do is take your hand and pull that down and smooth everything out. You can see the difference. Now there's a piece of wood underneath there. I'm going to step over here and then staple that to it. Now that's permanently anchored there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to work just a little bit right here to make that lay down a little nicer there. We're going to establish more in the back, and then we're going to get to the inside back. This is going quite well. It's looking good. Yeah, not bad. Okay, that's all done. Now let's get started on the back. What we're going to do is put the webbing on, establish that back where it was, and then we're going to do the foundation fabric for the inside back as well. So that's our next move. Okay, so now that we got the foundation inside back fabric on, we did the webbing, then that fabric. Now we got to put the foam back in its place. The foam does get stapled to the frame. You probably noticed that when you had to take it apart. So we're going to put the staples back in there, and then the inside back fabric. So we'll go ahead and start on that. What you want to do is when you staple your foam, you don't want to staple right on top if you can help it. You staple on the side in like this angle, and then when you fold over your fabric, it pushes down the top of the foam, covering up your staples. So you don't really want to have staples direct straight in. You want to come at an angle like this. So that's a small little tip for you to remember. Okay, so now what?
So now what we're going to do next is we're going to use this ply grip to make the seam right here. Same principle as over there. As you can see, this fabric frays a lot, so just be careful. Don't pull too much, but just do the best you can.
Yeah, it's just this particular weave, so hopefully yours is not like that, but it's hard when you're taking something apart that has this type of a weave and trying to keep it from unraveling on you. But hey, it's looking good. Let's keep going.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, we finished the inside back, the arms all complete, everything's established on the side, and now what's next?
Alright, so we're going to use this 1/2-inch tacking tape. This goes on the outside back, fold it over, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're trying to accomplish is this. We're going to put the cardboard up underneath here. It comes down about a 1/2 inch or so. And we're going to staple that. Then you take your Decor or your batting and go over top of the cardboard and then pull this fabric once it's established down and staple underneath. So that's our next goal, is what we're going to do now. Okay, when you get to the edge, don't staple the Decor yet, because we're going to put our ply grip here like this, and I want it to sit on top of the metal of the ply grip just like that. Okay, now we got the ply grip on the outside back, all completed, everything's stapled down. Now next thing is we're going to flip it up on its back and then put on the dust cover.
Alright.
And then the legs, and we're finished. Okay, this piece of wood was put on by the last upholsterer for added security, because this is where the frame was cut. So what we're going to do next is flip it over, put the cushions on, and you'll be able to see how good it looks even though this frame's been cut. Okay, as you can see, you can't tell this frame's been cut at all. So it turned out quite well. But I think it's important that we tell you that it was easier because it was zigzag platform springs. If it was coiled springs, that would have been a lot harder to do, because you got to have 8-way ties, and that would be a lot more complicated to go through. And I think that's pretty much it. It's got years of use. There's no way that this frame is not going to last for many, many years to come. So we hope you enjoyed watching it. It wasn't that bad, was it?
You kidding me?
And of course the upholsterer had to cut this free because they had to cut the frame to get the sofa out of or into the basement. We had to get, oh my God, I messed it up. Do it. First of all, the original upholsterer who had to take this frame apart to get it down to the basement, he brought with him jute webbing. Synthetic webbing. Man, I almost had it. All right, so what else could they do if they don't use the jute? I messed that up. The last upholsterer used synthetic webbing, and this is very good because it's flexible, where jute webbing is very stiff and it doesn't work as well. So he tied the serpentine springs in the appropriate places from front to back using jute.
Synthetic.
So what the upholsterer used, he used synthetic webbing. And it's good to use synthetic webbing if you're tying these serpentine string. It's okay. All right, now, so the next step is that we have to, man, I knew I was going to step on that thing. There. So now we've got this down. Okay, so now we're going to put the outside back on. Oh, you took the staples out. Okay, all right. Well, great, they're going to, okay, here. Okay, now we completed the inside arm, inside back. What the heck? Sorry. All right, you ready? Side arm, the inside arm. It's all done, so now what? Now what's up? All right, now that we completed the inside back, the inside arm. One more time, Nick.